Coming up on Regarding Men, Brilliant Bob, stories for kids that celebrate masculinity. Welcome to another episode of Regarding Men. And yes, I'm here with my two favorite patriots, Janice Fiamingo and Paul Elam. Both brilliant in their own way and wonderful folks. And, we're here as Regarding Men, where we hold men in high regard and where red pill isolation comes to die a quick and painless death. Indeed. And today we're joined by Ken Jolivet. And Ken is the author of a number of books, but 7 of which are children's books. And they're really special books. They're books about boys and masculinity. And in fact, you may not believe this, but the books are written in such a way that they hold masculinity in a positive light. We've been through 50 years of people just tearing up masculinity, saying how bad it is, until now we're at the point where everyone thinks it's toxic. And all of our young men are doing their best to not try and appear masculine. What a crazy world we live in. And many thanks to Ken for writing these books. I've heard feminists say over and over again, "Oh, why don't you do something about it? Just complain. La, 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 la." Well, Ken has done something about it. He's written 7 books on boys and men, boys really, and how masculinity is a thing of beauty, not a thing that's toxic. So Ken is a fascinating gentleman. He's got a long history. He actually grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, not far from where I grew up. And he went on to go to college and get his EE, his electrical engineering degree. Then went to the Air Force. And after that, started traveling. I think you got out of the Air Force, right? And started traveling. He's been all over every place. And maybe he'll tell us a little bit about that as we go along. But a fascinating history. And I'm sure that all of your travels really helped in writing these books. And looking at, how things are different in different places. And so glad you're here with us today, Ken.
Well, thank you, Tom. Thanks for that introduction. I never finished the double E. I started at it. And but when I joined the Air Force, I got my first bachelor's degree in aeronautics, and then I went on and did my military career, transitioned to an officer after 5-6 years, because you have to have a degree to become an officer.
Yes.
And finished the career 16 years as an officer to retire as a senior officer, but more so traveled the world, as you say. And the main thing there is that you get to see the real world, that not everybody has the most comfortable life. There's a lot of poverty.
Yes.
And then after I got red pilled in 2007-8 after my divorce, then I traveled the world again as a civilian, as a single man, and got to explore and see things from a different lens. And that's when I started to really notice men and issues, red pill, and combined it with my military career and couple of 3 master's degrees of different things. So
Ken is well-rounded, and he's a good one to write these books. Let's talk a little bit about the books, Ken. Let's put some up on the screen just so people can see what they look like, because they're beautiful books.
Thank you.
Brilliant Bob is brave. Brilliant Bob is competitive. Brilliant Bob is strong. Brilliant Bob is curious. Brilliant Bob takes a risk. My favorite, Brilliant Bob is stoic, and Brilliant Bob is persistent. I mean, these are just beautiful books, and they're beautifully illustrated. We'll see some of the illustrations as we go along. But look at all those characteristics. Persistent, stoic. These are things that just make the feminist blood boil. And Ken is saying, this is what makes masculinity. This is what, this is the bottom of what things are. So where do we go, Ken? How do we talk about this?
Well, the first thing I want to say is it's interesting. I just listened to a little podcast this morning. You probably know about the Eton teacher who got
Oh, yes.
dismissed now, in fact, for putting a film together for a debate at Eton, where they're known for debates. That's where they make prime ministers and kings and, you know, the best of the best there. And they basically fired this guy because he dared to make a video to discuss toxic masculinity, the patriarchy, and how men did not oppress. So that made me think about three things that, you know, the APA, American Psychological Association.
Oh, we know about them.
Yes, we do. You know how they actually have said that masculinity is toxic, and they chose three things: stoicism as one of them, that makes masculinity toxic, aggressiveness, competitiveness, and dominance and aggression. So those, right. It's funny that three of my books definitely hit upon against the APA. And that's the purpose of the books, is to counter the narrative on toxic masculinity.
Yes.
And then before I continue, last night, I was thinking about how do I make a little slogan about this. And I came up with morality makes masculinity magical. The 4 M's.
Huh.
So I'm going to try to start using that in the promotion of the books, because a nice quote, and I got it from Christina Hoff Sommers. She says in her book, War Against Boys, I think was the exact title. She says, history teaches us that masculinity without morality is lethal. But masculinity constrained by morality is powerful and a gift to women, and all that to society. And so that's sort of the flavor of why I wanted to write these books, because somebody's got to counter the narrative.
Yes, indeed.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was very interested.
Oh, go ahead, Janice.
Oh, I was just going to say I was very interested to see those specific qualities that you had chosen, especially, well, brave, of course, is also part of the toxic masculinity discourse, but I was especially interested to see competitive, risk taking as well, because we don't want anybody taking any risks in our modern culture. And then I agree with Tom, stoicism. That means that men don't cry about their feelings and don't constantly wear their hearts on their sleeves, as the feminists tell us that they should do. Although, as Paul has often said, that tends to mean that they end up very lonely and alienated from the same women that are telling them that they should do these things. So I was fascinated that you have chosen those qualities that feminists have been targeting for so many decades to celebrate in your books. What a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
That's really nice to hear. They were hard to choose 7. I originally was going to do 10 books, but they're expensive to do and they take a lot of work. So my wife thought, you know what, 1 for every day of the week would be a fantastic idea. So, and that's how I've labeled the books. Book 1 Monday, book 2 Tuesday, and since I found this particular item on stoicism quite interesting, that it used to be a very respected and admired trait or thing to have, and religions all across the world used it as the center of their moral teachings. Past, present, and some countries still do it today. And repression of feelings is actually a virtue. It's a good thing, because with repression, they say the repressors are actually less anxious, more confident, more successful academically, and they're socially more balanced. And if you think about it, with a lot of girls today, before I move on, and it's when you display it, it actually shows childness, immaturity, and self-centeredness. And so the problem with talking too much, like the girls are doing, they want you to talk and to cry and to feel. Well, it's been shown that actually, when you share too much, you experience anxiety and depression. So that was why I really thought it was important to get back to stoicism, because no, boys don't need to cry and talk. So there's a bit more.
Amen.
And to be fair, sometimes they do need to cry. I mean, it is not like that tears in males is a matter of evil.
No.
But what I find interesting about all this is sort of what Janice touched on, is that here you have all these characteristics which are under attack by feminist ideologues, but they do happen to be precisely what attracts women to men. Those characteristics across the board are sexually stimulating for women. And so feminists seem to have the agenda that to shape men into something that women loathe and detest. And I love the fact that you have taken this head on and talked so positively about these characteristics in boys. And I will add too, also, that while I take somewhat with a grain of salt the statement that masculinity without morality is evil or dangerous, I think part of masculinity is morality. I think that's part of masculine traits. But I do think we see that femininity without morality in this culture is incredibly dangerous. It's incredibly destructive, and it has been for 50 years.
Yes.
Yep. Well, we could write a whole book on morality and both masculinity and femininity. But yeah.
I wonder, Ken, could you tell us a little bit about like who these books are specifically targeted for? What age group?
Yeah.
How long are the books? What kind of vocabulary do they use? That kind of thing. Maybe Tom, you could show us a few of the images too, because they look like they're beautifully illustrated.
Let's do that.
Oh, which just talk about my world travels and things like that. Believe it or not, these books, my editors from America, the illustrators from Jakarta, my book layout designer, internal designer, was from Serbia, and the cover design work artist is from Canada.
Another strange outpost.
Yeah. But the books, they're targeted for specifically the 4 to 8 age group, and then we can expand that to 2-year-old to 10 years old and I want fathers or male mentors to read to the boys, but ideally the fathers in their life, which we can talk about later. But that's the idea, is to get the fathers to read. They're all 44 pages in total, but probably in word count, it's somewhere between 1,500 at the lowest to about 18 or so, 1,900 at the tops. So they're a little bit non-standard for your typical kids books, because the standard is supposedly 32 pages. But I wanted to get a lot of photos to engage the kids, and there's a lot of concepts in there. And this particular picture is from Brilliant Bob is Curious, and in that one he finds an old bike, and he wants to know how it ticks. And as we know, boys want to know how things tick normally as a gender. And so sometimes to learn something, you have to be destructive and take it apart. And that's what he does. And then he rebuilds it with Buddy. I think in this case, it was Genuine George, who wants to be the smartest. So going back to the books, each boy, Brilliant Bob is brilliant because he was born on a blue moon. So book 1, Brilliant Bob is Brave, introduces Bob and how he becomes brave and what his fears were, which most kids are afraid of the dark. They're afraid of certain foods. They're afraid of the dentist, and
for good reason.
No kidding.
And of other kids.
and exactly, that was the 4th one. And making friends with other kids. And so this story introduces Bob and how he's born and how he overcomes his fear. And why he overcomes his fear, because he was missing out. And so by learning to be brave, which the blue moon helped him, because he's a special kid, he's got to be brilliant, right? It was the blue moon kind of thing. He was born on it, and when he was 8 years old, when he turned 8, that year he decided, when he saw the blue moon again, I'm not happy, I'm not doing well, I'm skinny like my grandma tells me, I want to be big and strong. And that's Bob's part. He wants to be strong. And so and then in book 2, he because in book 1 he meets his friends, makes some friends. Then in book 2 he meets 3 friends. Dazzling Dave, who wants to be throw the ball the furthest, anything the furthest, footballs, frisbees, baseballs, you name it. He wants to throw things the furthest. And then Genuine George, he wants to be the fastest and the smartest. So I thought it would be good to have some academic stuff in there as well. And then Superboy Sam wants to be the best all-around athlete. So you got to be good, you know, at a little bit of everything. He'd be the decathlon guy. And so, and then from book 3, it's all about adventures. And so each book is about adventures to get to a moral or a lesson of a story. So you get something of it in a story, and then also about standards of behaviors as morals. So, yeah, here they are working out pretty hard because, you know, they want to be good at what they do. This is from Brilliant Bob is Strong, where they have to be strong and healthy, sleep well, all the things that parents want their kids to do. They have to do it because they want to win the game at football. And in this case, we're talking about European football or American soccer. So, and I talk about that. That's probably one of my favorites for the illustrations and how it all works. Pretty cool kicks in there and stuff like that. So I think a lot of kids will like Brilliant Bob is Strong because of the football. And that's
what I liked about this, Ken, is that throughout all of this, we see how kinetic boys are. And that to me is a critical part of their existence. I mean, we have one element of the established now trying to focus everything on their feelings and trying to make them like young girls. But the message in this I love, which is in order for these boys to be strong and stoic and all these other wonderful attributes that make up masculinity, they first must have mastery over their emotional lives. And that is really important, a great message to get across.
And not just mastery over their emotional lives, but they got to get out there and do it. They got to get out there and work out in the gym. And they learn that if I want to get better, I got to work out. You know, this is just great stuff, Ken. This is great stuff. And then you make it look like they're doing a good thing. I mean, this is a good thing to want to be strong. It's a good thing to want to be smart. You know, this is great.
And athleticism is a very interesting component in all of the books, it seemed to me, and in all of the boys. I loved reading about the different characters and you know what their goals are. And in some cases, yes, they want to be the one fellow, Genuine George, Genuine George he really wants to be smart. He's interested in knowing things and being very good intellectually. But it seemed to me that the thing that unites all of them is athleticism, doing things. And I thought that was very interesting, the emphasis on fitness, on strength, on playing sports. It's certainly one of the things that's downgraded generally in our culture. And I was interested, you know, why you were so interested in the physical element of boys' development.
Well, when I was growing up, I was nearly a national type athlete on a few different sports. So I grew up being very athletic. And I remember what got me, and I've had some criticism, believe it or not, already, if that doesn't surprise you, on Brilliant Bob is Brave. I've had 2 1-star reviews already. And one of them was on a professional site. I've had mostly 5 stars, all 5 stars so far on different platforms, probably let's say 20 of them. But on 2 of them, I got a 1-star review. And you know why I got the 1-star review? From an educator and another lady. And in fact, before I produced the books and released them, I had another lady who was a professional editor. I wanted a second opinion and some help. All 3 of them said, hang on a minute, you can't write a book like that because you're going to disappoint all the other children who can't just become brave, because you can't just become brave without some way of doing it. And so that's why I got the 1 star. And I'm like, well, hang on a minute. In book 1, Brilliant Bob is Brave, I talked about how he wasn't happy because he was suffering with his teeth because he was afraid to go to the dentist. I said how he was suffering from not having friends. So he was tired of playing with his construction sets, you know, building Lego by himself. He was sorry about being afraid of the dark and all kinds of things. And he was sad about not liking food and being afraid of vegetables and green foods. So something inspired him because he was fed up. So they didn't get that. They think he just miraculously became brave because he saw the blue moon. Well, that was the little trick of the book, but it still told how he was fed up. And I've been told alcoholics and people who smoke, the main thing you have to do is you have to decide you've had enough. Make the decision, I am no longer going to drink. I am no longer going to smoke. You make a decision and that's it. I was at a Harley Street doctor's once, and that's the thing he told me. He said, when you decide to do something, you just do it. You stop drinking. So I don't think it was far-fetched to say that Brilliant Bob made up his mind that he was fed up with missing out. He wanted to live his life to full, and that's why he decided to be brave. And he just, managing fear, remember, is about a decision. The only thing to fear is fear itself, as JFK said, or one of them said.
That was Churchill, I think.
Could have been Churchill. Yeah, I thought it was an American president, but yeah. And then I forget something else. Anyway, I lost my track. Oh, going back to, yeah, some of the books have some of my own personal things that I remember from childhood and doing certain things. So it's a lot about action. And Janice, when you mentioned something about that action, I thought, you know what? America, I think they're saying is it 60% obesity? We have a problem with obesity.
Yeah,
and
really.
So this hopefully will inspire kids to be active and stop gaming so much and get out there and do. Yeah. So yeah, it would be good for that too, but it's also good for masculinity. And someone else mentioned a thing about sports and activity is how we manage masculinity and aggressiveness too. It's how you can tailor boys to be civil, let's say, about that morality of masculinity kind of thing again.
Well, you mentioned in the morality section of your webpage that one of the lessons that the books teach is learning to lose gracefully, learning to be competitive, but also to take pleasure in others' success and others' victories. So certainly in sport and athleticism generally, there are those opportunities for all sorts of really important moral lessons that contribute to moral character and general well-being.
Yes, we have to learn to be a good loser and be happy for the other.
Exactly.
And that's in the book, Competitive. Brilliant Bob is competitive. It's part of the lesson.
And if you want a
page where Bob is happy about it for when he lost.
If you want to learn to be a good loser, you got to practice. You know, you got to lose a lot of times, and that's okay. You know,
that's right.
I also like the bravery focus where it concerns kids that are bullied. You mentioned getting to the point that you've had enough. As being the turning point for so many. I think that's what happens when kids finally overcome bullying. They decide they've had enough and they fight back.
Yes.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, it can be just like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I read the 1-star review, Ken. I thought it was nonsense.
I'm not going to worry about it. Yeah. It actually shows them, doesn't it? You know, when you think, out of all the engaging pictures, the story, you can only give a 1-star because you're so focused on this is not good for kids. How are they going to be brave? You know?
Yes, give up on them.
No, these are brainwashed people who think any masculine characteristic is a negative. And so anyone who presents them as positive, you're going to, you're putting yourself up there to be attacked. And good for
If
you,
you weren't
you
getting
know?
some one-star reviews, you wouldn't have done your job very well.
Exactly.
There'll be more to come, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, they're actually a
Yeah.
badge of honor.
I
Which,
agree.
that takes me back to the purpose again. The whole point of these books isn't who cares what criticism I get, but the bottom line is I want to build and to improve the mental health and self-esteem, sense of male identity, and pride in these boys. So that they, here we say genuine self-esteem comes with pride of achievement, which is the fruit of discipline. And I think, this just sums it up, and then from there, I want the fathers to read these books to the boys so they can talk about masculinity anecdotally, personally, in history, where we're going now, what they're talking about now about toxic, talk to the boys. So they need their self-esteem, because you can see, as Dr. Farrell talks about, the suicide, and that was why I wrote Society Kills Men Too, is about male suicide. And my uh, family member, I have some personal stuff with suicide. So it's getting worse and worse, that the younger and younger. And is it yeah, here we go. They're pretty equal up until 9 years old, males and females, girls and boys. And then all of a sudden at 10 to 14, suicide is 2 times as much as in young boys. Now that's pretty young, 10 to 14 to be taking life. 15 to 19 is also pretty young, and that's 4 times as much in boys. And then it skyrockets to 6 times for 20 to 24-year-olds. So I believe in doing what they call the Jesuit approach, and I want to get to these boys young, because if we don't get to them at the tender age of 2 to 7, which is the Jesuit approach, which just so happens to be, why reinvent the wheel? I'm going to copy the feminists. And they have programs called Quit It in San Francisco, which became national. And it was part of this National Education Authority, which was funded by the Department of Education in America and the Harvard School of Education, all signed up to things like Quit It was all about making boys less aggressive, less volatile, less competitive, and to have more cooperative skills. And then they also talk about therapism, which is basically talk and let's get the feelings out. And then another thing they call it is the new paradigm, which is essentially, for broken boys who are defunct girls, we need to fix them. So the new man needs to be the feminized man. So I've copied that and said, you know what, I'm going to get to these boys young. And that was why I wrote Kids Book for Boys, because I wanted to get them while they're young and teach them all the positive benefits of masculinity. And, that reminds me of, Paul saying, everything has a good and a bad side, doesn't it? No matter what you say, everything has a good and a bad. Like love kills, right? A mother's love can do so much. It's one of the best things in the world, but it can also kill you because, the bubble wrapping, worrying too much. I think Jordan Peterson talks about it a lot.
Right.
That if you get loved so much, you don't go out, you don't experience, you don't do things, you become afraid. Then talk about anxiety. You're not going to live your life. So, that was the whole point of this, and that's what the Jesuits did. It's the guy say, "Give me a boy." I wrote it down somewhere here. There's something about give me a boy until he's 7, and I'll give you the man.
Right.
Roughly, that's the quote.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah.
Indeed. Another thing I love about these books. Go ahead, Paul.
Oh, I was just curious. You have a large collection of books that you've already written. I was just curious if you found it challenging to switch gears from the type of writing you'd done in your books to all of a sudden you're writing children's books. I can't imagine the paradigm shift that must have been.
Yeah.
Was it
was
difficult?
really hard.
Yeah.
I have to say it was a lot harder than I thought. And I probably could have done more research on what is the formula for a kid book. But what I tried to do is I just tried to think back and keep it simple. But I also wanted to stretch with a little bit of the words to push them when they're learning to read, so that when the father was reading to the boy, they could talk about that word, and they can expand their vocabulary, because I think it's important to, like, competition itself is quite a big word, right? So I try to use simple sentences, and then just break it down that way. And then the other thing I did is I thought, okay, I need a really good illustrator so that I can get engaging pictures to go with the words. So knowing that I'm not the best storyteller, but I did use a lot of personal experiences from childhood and whatever I learned along the way, to just keep it simple. They always say kiss, don't they? Keep it simple, stupid. And then engaging pictures, and then just have a tiny moral lesson in there. And which reminds me, every book, I get them to do the high five with each other for camaraderie. I'm ex-military, so I like the idea of camaraderie, teamwork, for some things. And then I end the book, each one, I say, being brave is cool. So this is going back to the 80s. Hey, that's cool, right? A bit of slang. Being competitive is cool, all that kind of thing. So the last sentence is, it is cool. And so it was a simple formula, Paul, and it was difficult, but I just tried to keep it small words, short sentences, crisp and clear, which is why I wanted to get a good editor, which was female, because they're normally pretty good with articulation and keeping things in that way. So I was deliberate in a lot of those things.
I love the way you show the boys to be striving all the time. I want to do better. I want to do better. I want to do better. Because now we know testosterone does that. I mean, the testosterone is pushing boys to strive for status. And it's in them all the time. And some boys will have less testosterone than others, but those who have more are going to be striving hard. And it's not unusual for boys to strive hard. And so then they, the feminists shame this. Oh, you always have to win. You're trying too hard. And it's like it shames this beautiful part of boys of wanting to do better, wanting to get in there and kick its butt, And so thank you for that. I mean, that's just great. And, Ken, another question. What age group are you thinking would be best for these books? What do you think?
Yeah. 4 to 8 is the core.
4 to 8.
That's when I hope, they can pick it up, start to read it for themselves.
Yeah.
And then, as I say, that fathers, to get them from age 2 to 10, because let's face it, we know that some boys struggle on the reading side of things, and that is not abnormal, which brings me to another point I wanted to mention, that we know that boys don't read enough.
That's
and
right.
Girls read a lot more. And again, to quote Dr. Farrell, he knows in The Boy Crisis that worldwide, boys are 50% less likely than girls to meet basic proficiency in reading. And I have to be honest, in myself, I struggled when I was younger because I didn't take it serious. I think I was clever and I didn't know it. So I didn't really try, and I just kind of messed around, and I never read books. Nobody ever taught me to read, you should read. And I have a really strong memory of my childhood, quite young, and a librarian, bless you, librarian, she picked me out and gave me this book to read. And it was about like some wolves in Alaska or something. And
now you're talking.
With dogs. And I remember reading that book for years. It was my favorite book. And but I was behind in university because I wasn't reading enough, and therefore I couldn't write good enough. And this is what it says about the problem with boys not reading enough and that girls read so much, is it rolls into every other subject. And if you're behind in reading, you're probably going to be behind in all the other stuff except maybe math, right? Because math is numbers. So we need to get boys to read the books they like. And if they have an interest in something, they'll probably read it.
And the schools push books that are for girls.
Yes, they do.
Exactly.
And boys don't want
Not
to read
only
that
that,
crap. I can't blame them.
Not only that, but they actually rewrote them from the 70s. In other words, they wanted to show the girls in the forefront and the boys in the background doing all kinds of stuff, and the boys, so it was much more sinister. I mean,
yes,
all things, I'm sure it was all done with the right intentions to begin with. No question.
I'm not. I
don't think so. Hell no.
Hell
they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
I know. Yeah. But you have to wonder at the Department of Education and stuff at the higher levels, you had some bad eggs in there pushing for it, no doubt. And I know all about the feminism, like with you guys and all, you know, it started at a place of evil, really. You know, votes for women, chastity for men, right? That tells you all you need to know. So, but
votes for women, chastity for men.
Yeah, so
I like that.
The point is, yeah, and look at the feminized, it goes into another nice area that I wanted to comment about. Feminized schools. These schools are so feminized with 80 to 90% of women teachers, no male role models. They want competition free, they want feeling centered, they want sedentary, they want risk averse. Here we go about risk.
Yep.
They want the protected bubble. You're not allowed to play tag. You're not allowed to play cops and robbers. If you dare put your finger like a gun, you're going to be suspended. What they call zero tolerance policy. Boys get punished. They get suspended 9 times as much as girls or something like that. So, you know, if you have a school that just punishes boys, and boys are bad because they're boisterous, they don't sit, they're going to be the first to be skeptical and challenge, and they don't like it. Girls are compliant and they sit there, and what are the other words? They comport themselves better. They're more amenable to routine, and on and on and on. But the worst thing about it is school has made masculinity to be violent, and violence is masculinity, and you're a predator and you're evil, so you need to be changed. And that's what we're facing.
Well, what they do, you put it in a nutshell when you said sedentary, Ken, that they're forcing boys into classrooms, no more, you know, rigorous physical activities. And of course, when you do that to young boys, as kinetic as they are, they start acting out in the classroom. Right. And then, well, now we need to put them on Ritalin.
Right.
Because they were abused and constrained unfairly in the first place. And because they are healthy and rambunctious, they rebel against that. Then that becomes a way to target them with powerful psychotropic medications. It's going on in every school in all throughout the West, and it's absolutely horrible.
It makes me so angry that. I don't even know what to say. It's criminal. It's criminal, and it
is.
You know, and that reminds me, you know, the story about how they sucker the parents into that. You know, they bring you in. There was a guy who was an ex-actor, Hollywood guy that turned teacher. He wasn't, you know, top level, but he was in acting, and he turned to school, and he didn't know it was pernicious as it was until he went there. That once they have their eye on you, your son, let's say, they are going to make it fit that he is going to be a problem and is too rambunctious, and he will get Ritalin, and guess what? It will be to his benefit because he's going to get extra time, he's going to get this, and he's going to get that, and you find yourself down the path that you, instead of fighting it, you go along with it. And this is that thing about the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You know, people talk and talk and talk. It needs action, and that's why I invested a lot of money. This is my personal money that I spent to do these books in my time. It took me 14 months to do these books. That's action. What can I do? We all have to ask ourselves, what can I do to take some action? You could write your congressman, and this goes to Paul and the red pill stuff. And what can you do? when you're at a dinner party, when you're with a friend and somebody brings up some nonsense, you have to speak out against it. You have to give the truth.
Yes.
You can't just sit there and be polite and go, I'll let that one slip. No, it's time. All these things they have to stop slipping. When they say something, like I was taking my dog for a walk the other year and I wasn't well. And the woman said to me, "Oh, what'd you have, the man flu?" When I wasn't there for a week or whatever. And I told her, and this is a perfect example, you don't accept that kind of humor. That isn't even funny. It was a serious thing. And, testosterone, again, I study it like you, Tom, and testosterone makes us, we don't feel pain as much, but they want to laugh at us. And COVID is a good example. It's killing men because our immune systems aren't always as strong. And when you're an athlete and you expel a lot of energy, you've sapped it, your immune system's already down, and you can get sick, and we feel it, but that's just one example. You have to speak up at the slightest things and stop allowing them to say it.
Yes. And you know what? All of you out there watching, you can do something, and that is you can look at the links below. You can find the links to Ken's books for boys. Buy them, even if you don't have kids. Give them to some family that does have a boy that's 4 to 8, and spread the word around.
Yes. Yeah. And thank you, Tom,
you
for
took
that.
The words right out of my mouth. That's exactly what I wanted to say. Hit that link below and get these books. And you don't even know, even if you don't know people with kids that age, at some point you will. I mean, this is a timeless gift that you can give somebody. And imagine the positive benefit to 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old boys to hear this reinforcement and praise of masculine values and masculine characteristics, which is them. This is a way to tell these boys that they matter, that they have value, that what they think and feel and what they do is healthy and important. Because they're sure enough going to get a load of bullshit from the rest of the world about how they're toxic and everything else. And this is a way, I think Ken's right on, you grab them when they're young and plant that seed so that when they start encountering the misandry and the hatred that's out there in the world and in the school system against them, there's a part of their brain of go, nah, I'm not buying this. I know better than this.
Exactly.
That's it. Exactly.
Yes.
And it's instilling a little bit of pride in them. If they have pride, they'll have it. They'll know that they're good people.
And let them know that it's okay to be the way they are. They don't have to try and be something they're not, to be more like the little girl in their classroom. Screw that.
I do want to suggest one more book in the series, though. Brilliant Bob discovers his teacher is wrong.
Paul, you should write that one.
That could be number 8.
8 days a week.
When this is successful, which it will be, there will be more to come. There are more traits that can come through, but and then the other thing is, once I get it going, is I want to give to some proper charity, something. I want them to have a 10-20% cut of the profits. So I want to give back, and I don't know what that organization will be yet, because I'm not hearing good things about the Boy Scouts because they've been taken over and feminized from what I hear. So it's such a shame that
there is no more Boy Scouts.
No. So, if you have ideas and anyone wants to get in touch with me, they can go to the website, www.brilliantbobkidbooks.com. They can send me a message, any feedback. I would love it. And then the other thing I wanted to say was, they're on paperback for the cheaper, more affordable copies, so that you don't have to spend that much. And then the more collector's ones, which I did to get them in hardback, which I don't know if you see them. They're beautiful. The hardbacks are unbelievable. They feel good. They look good. I just really love them. They're durable, obviously. Nice. And and that's for the libraries and the schools. So the hope is to get these things, so word of mouth again. That's why, you know, to do these shows and to talk and get on other shows. Like I've been invited, looks like PragerU, they've started a prep section with Jill Simonian. We're in contact. I sent her a copy of the books, and she's interested in doing something. Good. And you know, Jocko Willing, the Navy SEAL, I'm in contact with him, and he may be interested. So the idea is to get this out there, so that and then there's another platform called Renaissance. I only learned about this from a guy in Florida who liked the books, and apparently you have to send the recommendation into renaissance.com. It's a platform that does reading books for kids, and the idea is you read the book, and then you take a test on Renaissance, and you get your reading skills, and you get some sort of assessment sort of thing, and they track it. Now, I don't know much about that platform because I only heard about it, but they apparently go by request. So if you request these books, they'll put it to their they'll curate it into their selection, you know, of books to use for the kids. So that's the idea, you know, to get it out there and get it on these different platforms.
Amen.
That's why
good
for the schools and the libraries and things like that.
Good.
Great.
Yeah, and you can see Ken's address, the web address is right there on his lower third, brilliantbobkidsbooks.com, and there'll be a link also below. So go see him.
Any feedback? Get in touch, please.
Good.
But first, if you're going to give feedback, buy the book, share them with somebody. We need to
definitely.
We need to support this kind of work.
Yes.
If we don't, I mean, believe me, the feminists will be coming with their 1-star reviews.
Yes.
It looks like they've already started. It's real important for those in our community to get behind efforts like these. I don't know of a better cause I can think of right now than helping young boys understand that there's nothing wrong with them for being masculine.
Exactly.
And that it's a good thing.
Yes.
Right. We really need that.
Yes,
we need
indeed.
that.
Yes, indeed.
You know, because it's something we didn't really talk about, that, you know, the thing about fatherlessness.
Oh, boy.
You know, 78% of the kids spend little to no contact with their fathers. And single motherhood is going through the roof, between 50% and 70-something%.
Yeah.
This is not boding well for our boys, with no fathers, no male mentors, attacks on masculinity. If we don't start to fight back, I don't know at what point us men and the women who love them, if we don't start now, we're not going to stand much chance.
That's
sorry.
That's it.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So
thank you, Ken.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Ken.
Yeah,
it's
really
been
glad
a joy.
that you.
Bye,
thank
guys.
you for having me. Really, thank you for having me on the show. And we have
welcome.
to do it together. A bit of solidarity, like the feminists do. We've got to do that, as stick
there
together.
You go.
Work together as we do. You know.
Yep, I agree. Yeah. Are we finished?
Well, not
I think
quite.
we are.
Why not, Paul?
One little thing we have to attend to.
What's that?
It's that men
are
good. That's 3 in a row. That's
and I salute them all.
Boring. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.